What's up, everybody? This is D-Ross, Dwayne-Ross, the author of the book, No More Crumbs, celebrating you discovering your tag, your talent, your ability, your gift. As you know, authors, we have a number of authors that are involved with Discover Your Tag. Discover Your Tag, again, is talent, ability, and gift. And over the time, I always get invited to talk to people about how is it that I got started or what did I do to move forward with this. And so I share that story all the time. But what I also do is I invite you to get started with your journey. And so we had a conversation, myself and Dr. Flowers. And in that conversation, she talked about getting her name out there with her book. And so today is that opportunity. I want to say thank you. We're live right now at the Oxon Hill Library in Maryland. She's going to come on and she's going to share some real cool insights and tips and things of that nature regarding imposter syndrome. As you know, so many of us walk around thinking we're not enough, right? Especially if you are a veteran like I am, veteran of the Air Force. Of course, she is also a veteran of the United States Air Force. She's going to talk about herself a little bit and give you some insights there. But we're going to hear from her when it comes to this idea of silencing that self-doubt, right? And elevating your potential. See, your potential is nothing until you activate it. You could talk all day about what you want to do, but until you start taking actions in order to get it done, it's just a bunch of words. So we're going to talk about not only just thinking about it, but being about it, right? And this idea of taking whatever it is that you have, remember your talent, your ability, your gift, and putting it to work in the earth. And the first thing you're going to run into is I'm not good enough. What makes me able to do X, Y, or Z? So I'm going to get out the way. I want to invite my guest, Dr. Joshan Flowers, as she comes in and she tells you this whole thing about what you can do to silence that self-doubt when it comes to imposter syndrome. So, Dr. Flowers, if you're in the house, I need you to show on up. Come on through, talk to some people. Let's hear what you got. In the room.
I am the daughter of a teenage mom. I lived in the Chicago housing projects. I dropped out of college because I could not afford college tuition any longer. And now they call me doctor. That is my mantra. Now they call me doctor. Just imagine all of the things that I had to endure, all of the things I had to go through just to get to where I am today. And of course, along the way, I experienced imposter syndrome and didn't even know it. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Joshan Flowers, and I am here to talk about imposter syndrome. Let me start off by saying, what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is the feeling of self-doubt. It masks itself as anxiety. It also gives you the feeling that you're not worthy of something, recognition, promotion, whatever it may be. Those are all feelings of imposter syndrome. So, what are some other things that you need to know about imposter syndrome? Well, first of all, just like post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, imposter syndrome is the same. No one knew what PTSD was until it was given a name. Now the feeling of self-doubt, unworthiness has a name, and it's called imposter syndrome. Identifying with those things is a key factor in order to get better, to heal yourself. So, how do you actually What are some of the areas that you recognize imposter syndrome in? You recognize them in everyday things. You recognize them in your work, in your personal life, in social environments. Imposter syndrome is everywhere. But my book specifically talks about imposter syndrome, silencing the self doubt in the workplace. So, again, how do you identify it? Well, if you have had an evaluation with your supervisor, or if you're been put in the lead of a group and you have these anxieties, if you feel like, this wasn't for you, then you may be suffering from imposter syndrome. Yes. Okay. And so, what are some things to recognize? Again, it might be an annual review that makes you feel those feelings. It might be being put in a certain situation. But you need to know how to recognize it in order to overcome imposter syndrome. Well, how does it affect your career? I was in the military, as Dwayne said, and again, I had it all throughout my military career, and I didn't even know it. Sometimes you feel like you didn't deserve the promotion, or sometimes you feel like you shouldn't have gotten the raise or the recognition because you were unworthy. Well, a lot of people feel that way, but you have to realize that these things can be controlled. So, what can it do for your career? It can stagnate you. If you do not learn how to recognize and overcome that fear of anxiety, self doubt, it could make you hold back on your potential. Some of the defined terms for imposter syndrome is perfectionism, overachievement, fear of failure. Those are all feelings that one have when you talk about imposter syndrome in their careers. Also, when you talk about leadership, being in a leadership role, one who definitely feels like, you know what, I don't know if I can actually lead this group. I don't know if I'm the one. All of those feelings rushing through yourself, those can hinder achievement, success in anything that you do. So you want to learn how to control those feelings, identify those feelings, and learn how to adjust and know that you're enough. I was a keynote speaker at the USDA, and I often talked about celebrities who suffer from imposter syndrome. I'll give you an example of Howard Schwartz. He was the CEO of Starbucks. He often thought that he was not enough even when building a successful business. Now, this is a leader that if we don't know him personally, we all recognize Starbucks, but yet in his successfulness, he was suffering from imposter syndrome. But you don't have to be that successful to experience imposter syndrome. This is something that everyone can suffer from. So I want you to understand that throughout your career, throughout your life, if you've ever felt any anxiety, if you ever felt like you had to be a professional or be a perfectionist, this is identified with imposter syndrome. I gave an example once about me working on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. During the promotion cycle, I was in charge of the Air Force colonels, anyone on the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the Air Force that was being promoted. During the promotion cycle, I would work 7 days a week, just to look good in the eyes of my superiors. And guess what? I was suffering from imposter syndrome. No one should work 7 days a week. There needs to be that work balance. And that's what I want to share with you. When you find that you are doing things that's outside of the norm that you would not normally do, those are signs of symptoms of imposter syndrome. Also, How do you recognize this? How do you overcome it in your career as a leader? You start to write these things down. When you start to notice any feelings of discomfort, unworthiness, write them down, journal it. You have to be aware of the feelings that you're having so you can learn how to deal with them. Also, I want to talk about I I want to talk about sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, I want to talk about journaling, journaling your thoughts, journaling your feelings and your emotions about imposter syndrome. I apologize for the pause, but I'm just trying to get all the information to you. My apologies. But yes, so those are things that you want to do. You want to be able to recognize the feelings of imposter syndrome and learn how to deal with them. You also want to be able to see how you can advance in your career once you recognize imposter syndrome, because those are the things that's going to help you to get to where you want to be in life. How does it affect diversity in the workforce? Imposter syndrome, of course, once people are aware of imposter syndrome and you're able to communicate effectively in different settings and different environments, that's most important, and challenging someone to understand their self-worth. Yes. Okay. So in the book, I talk about all of this in depth. I talk about it verbatim in the chapters of the book. Understanding imposter syndrome, recognizing the imposter syndrome in yourself, the impact of imposter syndrome on your career, imposter syndrome in leadership, how to overcome imposter syndrome, building resilience, creating a supportive work environment, and diversity and inclusion in the workplace. So let me share with you the one about overcoming imposter syndrome. Well, the only way to overcome imposter syndrome is you have to identify what type of imposter syndrome you are that affects you the most. For me, it was called overwork, overachiever. I wanted to be the best. So if you find one of these traits that bothers you, you need to figure out how to overcome it. Some of the characteristics that I list in the book are self-doubt, perfectionism, overcoming achievement, fear of failure, undermining success, difficulty accepting praises, comparing to others, discounting achievements. All of those areas are imposter syndrome. Yes. Okay. The pain. Okay. Yes. Yes. So once you find those traits and understand the pain and the purpose that comes with that, you can actually overcome imposter syndrome. But again, my advice to anyone is find out what part of imposter syndrome bothers you the most. Find out what bothers you the most. Find out how you can I find out how you can, improve on it. And that will be the most important thing. Okay. So, um, so once you find out that one of these traits are the traits that bothers you the most. You need to do a self-reflection. You I can't tell me.
Tell them.
Tell them.
Yes.
Okay.
Tell them your pain. Tell them
Okay.
your story. Tell them why this is so important to them.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So this is where my passion is. So thank you for helping me with that. So this is my passion. This is why it's so important, because if you don't realize what you're going through, if you can't identify that pain that's keeping you back, that struggle, that doubt, that's the one thing that you'll never overcome. So the purpose is to overcome it so you can actually go further in life, achieve the things that you want to achieve. It's very important to recognize the signs, the symptoms of imposter syndrome, so you can actually, like me, I had to learn what imposter syndrome was in order for me to get to where I am today. As I wrote everything in the book, as I'm writing everything in my second book about Shadows of Valor, I reflected on all of my imposter syndrome ordeals. And again, as I stated in the beginning, I suffer from imposter syndrome. That's the only reason why I'm bringing it to you, because I understand. I have been there. I am that person who, as I write every word, every page, I reflect on my own experiences. And I want you to be able to reflect and understand the same thing. Okay, so for an example, my story, one of my stories about imposter syndrome definitely is being in the military. I use that a lot, being in the military. Imposter syndrome makes you a chameleon. You have to be able to adapt in every situation. And for me, a lot of times, not knowing what to expect, having people that didn't look like me as my leader, I had to learn how to be like them. But that wasn't myself. I was suffering from imposter syndrome because I was trying to be a leader from someone else's expectation. And again, once I found out that I was trying to be an overachiever, that I had self doubt, all of those things made me want to share it with everyone else. If you've ever experienced it, you can overcome imposter syndrome. It's definitely something that we are all experienced, but we can all get over. It affects your career, it affects your personal life, and it affects you socially in every aspect that you can think of. I still want to share, when I was in basic training, this is a good example of the pain I had. As soon as I got to basic training, what's one of the things they do? Is everyone lines up, you go to a bay, you figure out who your flight commander is, and we're all with a bunch of women who don't know each other. Well, guess what? They decided to make me an element leader. I had never, ever been in charge of anyone. I had no friends. And I'm like, why are they making me an element leader? I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. I just knew that they had made a mistake. I knew the TI was going to come back and say, you know what, Airman Flowers, you're not the person we thought you were. You just need to let someone else do this. And believe it or not, he didn't. And I made it through. But it was that constant self-doubt that held me back, that constantly nagged me all the time, making me believe that I was not good enough for a leadership role, even from the very beginning. Now, how many of you all feel like that at work? How many of you all go into an annual review expecting your supervisor to tell you, that your performance is bad or that you need to improve in a certain way. That's what I wrote about. I had the privilege of interviewing people from a certain government agency, all the way from GS9 all the way up to SESs. And guess what? The majority of them suffer from imposter syndrome. A lot of them dreaded the annual review. So if you think it's just you who suffers from imposter syndrome, it's not. It's just that people don't talk about it. It's an internal feeling that just tears you up on the inside. And I'm hoping that everyone can just recognize, understand, and try to overcome these feelings of imposter syndrome. Also, let me just share a couple of more stories, because this is a personal thing. This is something that all of us recognize, and I want to be able to help everybody on I want to be able to help everybody on a personal level. In addition to the book, I've also written a journal. I know it's kind of camouflage with the yellow that I'm wearing, but it says "Just Being Me: The Road to Self-Healing." So this book, in combination with the other book, this is one of the ways that you can actually take the road to recovery, recognizing, identifying, and start healing yourself. Because with anything, PTSD, any psychological disorder, you have to be able to identify it first, be able to find ways to recover. And this journal definitely is a way that can help you. Journaling anything, journaling your feelings about your experiences, journaling when you actually have these events happen. That's the only way you're going to be able to that's the only way you're going to be able to overcome that. I can give you an example. Before I wrote my book, I had a journal on my desk that I used every day. Sometimes I didn't write in it, but I definitely read in it. One of the journals I have on my desk is called Being Extraordinary, right? That's something I would tell my children each day. In order to be extraordinary, tear down the walls of feelings of self-doubt. Just journal about the things that you are feeling at that time and the things that bother you the most. You want to journal your most inner thoughts, your most inner feelings. That way you can recognize it and definitely try to overcome it. Again, silencing self-doubt within the workplace. It starts by having good management as well. As leaders, as managers, as supervisors, you have to be able to relate to your employees. Put them in a position of comfort so they can talk to you about their feelings. If it's an annual report and your employee is stressed out because they have to come to you, the only way you're going to know that if you ask the questions. As that supervisor, as that manager, be engaged enough to know that someone may be suffering from imposter syndrome. You don't have to have a doctorate degree in order to understand that your employees may be having anxiety about something, but you are that employee who can help them ease some of their tension by meeting with you annually. Some of the other things that you can do in a management or leadership setting: take feedback. Take the feedback from the employees. Put them in a safe space. That's a word that, everyone uses right now. You want to put people in a safe space so they understand that it's okay to talk, to understand that disorders is something that everyone may have. But even if you don't, be empathetic. empathetic to know that someone else is suffering from it, because the only way you are going to be successful, the only way your organization is going to be successful, is that you help the employees identify and overcome some of the things and the challenges that they have. Let me take it back to a personal note for me. So I've told you about the book, Imposter Syndrome, Silencing the Self-Doubt in the Workplace. I've told you about Just Being Me, the road to self-healing. Those are things that can help you, but really, you have to help yourself first. That's the most important thing. I had to help myself first. I had to identify that I had the feelings of imposter syndrome. It may have been years ago, it might have been yesterday, but I had to identify it. And once I knew what it was, I was like, oh my God, I need to share this with the world, because there's other people out there that's feeling the exact same thing I am. Don't suffer in silence with anything, with imposter syndrome, with PTSD, with any kind of mental disorder. Work on yourself, journal, and just find those things that can help you. I am a work in progress every single day, and this is something that I'm passionate about, and I wanted to share with you all. And I just hope that some of the things that I've said can help. Lastly, in the workplace, diversity and inclusion. I know I mentioned that earlier, but be open to the different settings in your office, in your space. These things will help bring down the imposter syndrome. If you have someone from a different culture, a different background, I'm not saying you have to have a kumbaya moment. I'm not saying that, but you definitely have to recognize and hopefully respect the differences of others for the success of your business and your organization. And with that, I hope that you have learned something about imposter syndrome today. Again, the two books that I wanted to share with you today is Imposter Syndrome, Silencing the Self-Doubt in the Workplace, and Just Being Me, The Road to Self-Healing. And please, my second and third book is coming out. It's called Shadow of Valors: Imposter Syndrome in the Military. Please look out for it. I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'll leave you with my mantra again. I'll leave you with my mantra again. I am the daughter of a teenage mom. I lived in the Chicago housing projects. I had to drop out of college because I could no longer afford to do the tuition. And now they call me doctor, and I am overcoming imposter syndrome. Thank you, and please have a great rest of your day.
All right, so listen. Did y'all hear that? That's powerful, right? This whole idea of imposter syndrome puts you in a place where you can heal, puts you in a place where you can overcome, puts you in a place where you never have to look at what people think about you. Remember what she said? I am enough. I have a personal mantra. She has a personal mantra. She uses that to empower her to move, right? You got this idea of, hey, what do I need to do? I can journal. Journaling is a powerful method of getting it out of your head, out of your heart, into this book. And then later on, you can go back and even see where were you. But I want to encourage every single person. I don't know where you are. If you're on Facebook, if you're live there, we're on YouTube Live. Wherever you are, I want you to right now put a comment about what you think about imposter syndrome. What do you think about being silent? What do you think about not having that power on the inside to move forward with your own dream? Because here's the thing, it's on the inside of you, but you might need to empower yourself. See, sometimes you can't empower yourself because you're standing in your own way. And this whole idea of silence is very noisy. Very noisy. what did she say? Look, I came from this project and they call me doctor. That is powerful, y'all. So listen, don't sit around and think about it anymore. Get the books. They're right here for you. I want to say thank you for Dr. Joshan Flowers, who is the author of this book. Hey, Imposter Syndrome. Silence it. I had on the wrong side. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Silence in the workplace, right? Okay, I want you to be noisy in the workplace next time. I want you to be noisy with the power that you have on the inside of you because you deserve it and you are worth it. You are enough. So I want to say thank you. I hope you guys had a great time. For all of y'all on my page, you know today is a big day, day 3 of the draft. That's happening too. So listen, this is Dwayne-Ross, author of the book, No More Crumbs. Celebrating you, discovering your tag, your talent, your ability, your gift, and putting it to work in the earth. My guest today was Dr. Joshan Flowers, who is the author of 2 more books coming at you. So don't sleep. Get ready. Take care, y'all. We'll see you. Peace. See you on the next page, next post, next YouTube video, next live. Or, hey, maybe you might be in one of our conferences coming up. Oh, yeah, that's happening. Getting my AI certification, too. Talk to y'all later. Take care. See you.